Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Sarah Syafiqah binti Rusazalan. I'm from JBC 251 3G. I would like to present assignment 2 for the second topic for the question 1. Okay, as the introduction, in 2020, the world shocked us about the COVID-19 pandemic. All countries in the world are exposed to this pandemic. This COVID-19 pandemic also give harsh effect to the Malaysia economy. In February 2020, there are first cases happened in Malaysia. In March 2020, Malaysia government start the movement control order to control the COVID-19 pandemic. During the MCO, all sector economy have been closed and stopped. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, Malaysia are having recession and unemployment. It is because the economy sector have to be stopped and closed, and there are many people lost their job. Okay, so what is recession? Recession is macroeconomic term that refer to a significant decline in general economic activity in a designated region. It had been typically recognized as two consecutive quarter of economic decline and reflect by GDP is conjunction with monthly indicators such as rise in unemployment. It is because economic sector in Malaysia was stopped their operation. Why? Unemployment is occur when a person who is actively searching for the employment is unable to find work. Unemployment is often used as a measure of the health of economy. The most frequent measure of unemployment is unemployment rate, which is the number of unemployed people divide by the number of people in the labor force. Okay, when the unemployment happen in Malaysia, because of the COVID-19, the Malaysia are having recession, very high, and the Malaysian citizen also have a problem because they don't have the salary, they lost their job. So there are many incentives that given by the Bank Negara Malaysia and government to help the Malaysian citizen. So we move to the incentive by the Bank Negara. Bank Negara give the incentive by Bank Negara is restructuring of loan or financing activity. Banking institution will offer a deferment of all loan repayment for a period of 6 months. For credit card facilities, banking institution will offer to convert the outstanding balance into a 3-year term loan with reduced interest rate. For loan to corporation, banking institution will also facilitate requests by corporation to defer or restructure their loan or financing repayment in a way that will enable viable cooperation to preserve job and swiftly resume economic activity when conditions improve. The bank have provided appropriate time-bound flexibility for banking institution report deferred or restructure facility in the Centre Credit Referral Information System (CCRIS). The next incentive by the Bank Negara is the bank decide to continue to supply daily ringgit liquidity to bank via various tools under our open market operation, including outright purchases of government security, FX swap, reserve repos, and the standing facility. The bank also take preemptive ratio by 100 basis point, coupled with the additional SRR flexibility granted to principal dealer. This has released approximately RM300 billion worth of liquidity into the banking system. The bank is continue closely monitor development and ensure sufficient liquidity in the financial system at all times. But not bank negara only help or give incentive to help the economy of Malaysia, but the government also give incentive to Malaysian citizens to help them to have fun to continue their purchasing by give economic stimulus package perhatian rakyat worth RM250 billion to Malaysian citizen. Government also give RM1,900 to nearly 4 million household earning a monthly income of RM4,000 and below. Second, RM1,000 to almost 1.1 million household earning over RM4,000 to RM8,000. Third, government also give RM800 to 3 million single individu 21 years of age and monthly income of RM2,000 and below. Also, RM500 to 100,000 single individual aged 21 years and over with monthly income of more than RM2,000 and 4,000. Government also give intensive to IPT or IPTS student, which is government provide RM200. Okay, next intensive by the government is the government has agreed to postpone the repayment of PTPTN to all borrowers for 6 months involving a sum of RM750 million. The government also has agreed to extend the rent payment exemption for PPR from a month previous announced to 6 months with a total cost of RM3 million borne by the government. The government also has allocated RM500 million for the purpose of providing 15% discount on the tourism sector, electricity bills, and 2% for commercial, industrial, agriculture, and household sector in Peninsular Malaysia as of 1 April 2020. No, 1st April 2020. Sorry. Government also provides special perhatian grant amount to RM2.1 billion will be established for eligible micro enterprise. And last, a grant of RM3,000 will be provided to each company benefiting almost 700,000 enterprise. Okay, based on the incentive given by the Bank Negara and the government, it showed that Bank Negara and government very concerned to the economy and concerned to Malaysia citizen. Okay, as the conclusion, there are a lot of incentive that has been introduced by the government to help the citizen. Government also give all support and try hard to cover economy problem during the COVID-19. Bank Negara also act in a role to protect the economy by introducing a lot of initiative and help. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Umi Aiman binti Rahid from JBC 2513G, Nomatic 2020-9769773. My question is second topic, number 2. So today I will explain about the data and graph economic growth that measured by GDP, gross domestic product, from 2015 until 2019. Also explanation for January, February, March and April 2020 due to COVID-19 tragedy and impact on Malaysia economy. Okay, for the introduction, the gross domestic product (GDP) is the total value goods and services produced in a country. GDP is the main main indicator that used to measure the country economic performance. Also to know whether the country is the economy of the country is growing or decline. So when GDP is slowing down or is in negative figure, it can lead fears of a recession, which mean layoff, unemployment, decline business, also decline the consumer spending. Many people believe that the national economy would be greatly impacted by the COVID-19 outbreak. And also, Ben Garamaisa state that the coronavirus outbreak will affect Malaysia economic growth in Q1 2020. The travel and tourism and associated sector are also predicted to be among the most affected industry in Malaysia, as Malaysia's biggest tourist number are coming from China.
Okay, so this is the graph for GDP growth rate Malaysia from 2015 to 2019. Malaysian GDP grew at 5% in 2015 against 6% in 2014. The growth rate for the first and second quarter of 2015 was constant at 1.4, and it decreased in the third quarter, but increased back to 1.2% in quarter 4. So Malaysia economy expanded at 4.5% in 2016, 4 quarter from 2015. In 2016, the GDP increased about 0.4% from quarter 1 to quarter 2. It decreased back in quarter 3, but increased back to 1.4% in quarter 4. The Malaysian economy, as measured by the GDP, expanded 5.9% in the fourth quarter of 2017 from a year earlier, driven mainly by private sector. Demand with support from the Malaysian economy, as measured by gross domestic product, expanded 5.9% in the fourth quarter of 2017 from a year earlier. It is driven mainly by private sector demand with support from the external sector. So Negara Malaysia also said in 2017, full year GDP grew 5.9% on year compared with the 4.2% expansion in 2016. Malaysia GDP growth rate of quarter 1 and quarter 2 in 2017 is the highest compared to 2015, 16, 18 and 19. We can see from the graph above, although in 2017 is decreased in quarter 2 and 4, but is still higher than 2016. The Malaysia economy, as measured by GDP, expanded 5.9% in the fourth quarter of 2017. Is driven mainly by the private sector and also support from the external sector. Bank Negara Malaysia also said 2017 full year GDP grew 5.9% on year compared with the 4.2% expansion in 2016. And the Malaysia GDP growth rate of quarter 1 and quarter 3 in 2017 is the highest highest compared to 2015, 16, 18 and 19. We can see from this graph, although in 2017 have decreased in quarter 2 and quarter 4, but it's still higher than 2016. Okay, for 2018, the GDP of Malaysia grew 4.7%. This rate is 10th of 1% less than the figure of 5.7% published in 2017. We can see from the graph above, 2017, the GDP for 2017 is not good compared to 2017. It decreased about 0.7% from quarter 1 to quarter 2, but increased drastically to 1.5% in quarter 4. So Malaysia economy expanded by 4.3% in 2019 as compared in the previous year. In 2018, as compared to previous year. In 2019, the Malaysian GDP current price amounted to 1.51 trillion and constant price record 1.42 trillion. The highest GDP growth rate in 2019 is in the quarter 3.
Okay, this graph show the GDP growth rate Malaysia from January until April 2020. As we can see from the graph, Malaysia GDP growth rate become negative 2%.
Malaysia GDP become negative 2 for the first quarter 2020 because of the necessary global and domestic action to contain the COVID-19 pandemic. The economic activity becomes slow because of the implementation of MCO or Movement Control Order and the suspension of operation by non-essential service provider and lower operating capacity of manufacturing firms. So, tourism-related sector are also affected because of the travel restriction and travel risk aversion. While production disruption in the global supply chains will weigh on the manufacturing sector and export. Okay, the global and Malaysia economy outlook for 2020 will be significantly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Malaysia economy also grew by 0.7% year-on-year in the first quarter 2020. It was the weakest pace of expansion since the third quarter of 2019. This happened because the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. The monetary policy for 2020 would focus on providing support to domestic economic growth in an environment of subdued price pressure. And for the net external demand was contributed negatively to the GDP because both export and import fell sharply, while government spending growth accelerated. When the MCO is lifted, Malaysia economy will be recovered and many businesses will open back their business and restore their losses because of this pandemic COVID-19. For the conclusion, the COVID-19 pandemic is really effect on Malaysia economic growth. It made our GDP drastically decline to negative 2%. Because of during MCO, many business must close their business and people also become more careful with their expenditure, and they just they only buy things that they think very important for them. So the basic thing. So the business that sell or provide non-basic need product or service will suffer several loss. The situation make Malaysia economy grow become slow and badly affect. That's all for me. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurul Akmal binti Abdul Ghani. Today I would like to present about several effects of recessions because of COVID-19 pandemic on Malaysian economy as a whole, including KLSE Bursa Malaysia, rate of overnight policy rate, and base lending rate.
First, the effects of recessions toward overnight policy rate. OPR is set by our Bank Negara Malaysia, our central bank. OPR is the rate that borrower bank need to pay the lending bank for the fund that they are borrow. During this pandemic, BNM has reduced 50 basis point to 2.0 during this pandemic. Other than that, on 22 January 2020, the Monetary Policy Committee of BNM has announced that there is another slashing the OPR by 25 basis to 2.75%. A few months after that, BNM also announced another cut on OPR by 25 basis to 2.5% during this pandemic. And after that, the OPR was slashed by 50% by 50 basis point. This will show the real impacts of the COVID-19 to the economy. As we know, lowest OPR will create the dominoes effect in the lower interest rate. So, this is not a good sign for the bank because they will get the lower interest rate. But these actions encourage consumer to spend more and hope it will stimulate the economy. Second, we go to the effects of recessions toward KLSE Bursa Malaysia. On 18 May 2020, Bursa Malaysia gained 0.48% higher with trading volume across the board. They also reached 11.21 million units all the time. The rise in trading volume was mainly supported by the buyer who buying interest in penny stock. The market breaks still positive because they gain outnumber loser from 663 to 331. Other than that, 348 counter was unchanged, 533 were untraded and 17 others being suspended. However, this market condition is still remaining smooth at the moment, even though Malaysia was facing COVID-19 pandemic. FTSE index has slumped to the lowest level ever, which reached 1,200. The indices has declined since in the early of February until the MCO starts. Index has rebound from 18 March 2020. This is happened because most of the people are losing their job starting from MCO and they decide to gain passive income through buying stock in the market. Last, the effects of recessions towards base lending rate. Most of the bank in Malaysia has reduced their base lending rate and base rate during this pandemic. They decreased by 50 basis point, same like OPR reductions. This is including the RHB Bank, Public Bank, CIMB Bank, My Bank and OCBC. As we can see on the table, the green one is the new rate during this pandemic. Okay, other than that, our Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin has announced that an automatic loan moratorium for 6 months will be given to the individual borrower and SME starting 1 April 2020 onwards. This action is the right actions by governments to do. It is because many Malaysians are finding themselves out of job, put on unpaid leave, or they are given a pay cut. Other than that, many SME are closing down during this COVID-19. They can open their business because this COVID-19. So, this loan holiday is the most favorable to those who are in financial blind due to the loss in income or lost job. The money they can use to purchase their necessities such as foods, household items to survive during this pandemic.
Hi, my name is Narfatia Mamanawi. I am from JBC 2513G. Today I will be presenting about monetary policy instruments. Monetary policy instruments are the various tools used by the central bank depend on the level of development of the economy, especially its financial sector, in order to influence money market and credit conditions to pursue its monetary policy objectives. There are two types of instrument in monetary policy, which are quantitative and qualitative. Okay, we go through the first instrument, which is quantitative instrument. Quantitative instrument is also known as the general tools of monetary policy. The tools of this instrument are related to quantity or volume of the money. The tools themselves are indirect in nature and are employed for influencing the quantity of the credit in the country. These two instruments will unintentionally and intentionally get affected in respect with the changes or crises of the economy, such as recession. The first tool is bank rate policy. The bank rate policy (BRP) is a very important technique used in the monetary policy for influencing the volume or the quantity of the credit in a country. The interest rate at which involves the central bank lends money to commercial banks is called bank rate or discount rate. Any changes in this rate necessarily brings out a resultant change in the money and cost of credit available to commercial banks. In deflationary conditions of economic growth, the bank rate is decreasing. Decrease in the bank rate will reduce the cost of borrowing for commercial banks. It will also decrease the lending rates and encourages public borrowing with ease credit supply in the market. Open market operation. Open market operation are tools that used to reach the target rate by buying and selling securities in the open market. It refers to buying and selling of government securities. The central bank sells securities to commercial banks and public. This increases the money supply and at the same time reduces the supply of reserve or deposits with commercial bank. Open market operations target specific increases in the money supply in order to get the banks to loan funds more easily by purchasing a specified quantity of assets in process known as quantitative easing. During recession, central bank will buy securities from commercial banks, resulting in an increment in their funds. This meant to say that commercial banks are able to give out loans to the public, hence money supply increases. When there are plenty of money comes in and out in the market, it will eventually slow down the deflation, leading to a stable economy. Moving on to the next one, qualitative instrument. Qualitative instrument is also known as the selective tools of monetary policy. These tools are not directed towards the quality of credit, but used for discriminating between different users of credit. These tools influence over the lender and borrower of the credit. The first one is margin requirement. Margin requirement refers to the difference between the current value of the security offered for loan, or also called as collateral, and the value of loan granted. It is a qualitative method of credit control adopted by the central bank in order to stabilize the economy from neither inflation nor deflation. As during the recession, companies do not have enough funds to buy more stocks, which will be resulting a rise in the credit creating capacity, as those companies tend to take initiative to take out loans from commercial banks. Due to the demand of taking out loans as in immediate period of time drastically increase, the interest rate set by the central bank will be higher as for the return of the securities in order to stabilize the market from its deflationary phase. Therefore, there is no financial constraints faced by companies to buy stocks that matches the customer's demand. On to the last one, regulation of consumer credit. Consumer credit is extended by banks, retailers, and others to enable consumers to purchase goods immediately and pay off the cost over time with interest. There are two possibilities of impact to the economy by involving consumer credit in the market, which are economy might get a boost and might be contracted. This is really depending on the behavior of consumers in repayment their debt. The relationship between regulation of consumer credit and the condition of economic growth, specifically during recession, is more credit facilities are meant to offer to consumer. This has been said so as they have a limited amount of fund during recession. Hence, demand for credit is rapidly increased. Consumer may spend more money in the market in order to pull the economy out from depression. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Farhana binti Ruman and I'm from JBC 2513G. Today I'm going to talk about advantage and disadvantages of monetary policy. Right, first we take a look at the table of content. There's three types of monetary policy. The first one is open market operation, the second one is a discount policy, and the third one is a reserve requirement. And the fourth one, we have the fourth one, which is for federal funds rate, and it will be related with the types of this policy. Advantages of open market operation: the complete control over the volume by the central bank. Is a discount operation cannot directly influence the amount of discount loans. The central bank can only alter the discount rate to encourage or discourage banks to take out discount loans. Flexible and precise. They can be used in any extent, no matter how small a change in reserve or the monetary base is desired. Open market operation can achieve it with a small purchase or sale of security. It is a strong tool to make a purchase or selling even though the desire to change in reserve and the base is very large. So the next one is easily reversed. Mistake in open market operation can be reversed by the central bank. For example, if the IFF is too low because it has too many open market purchases, it can be immediately make a correction by conducting open market sales. So as you can see, the curve shows the response to an open market operation on purchasing the government securities. As you can see, when the central banks buy securities, the open market purchase increase. The quantity reserve supply, therefore shift supply curve to the right. This will cause the federal funds rate to fall. This will save the economy from fall and cause the economy to have a hard time.
Two disadvantages of open market operation. First, the confusion of open market operation. People will not understand the intention of central banks use open market operation because of this method might be confused to the public as they do not have much knowledge about it. And second is lack of developed securities market. This method can only be success by buying a securities market in a large scale, and here must be a broad, strong, and active securities market. And third is the contradictions between bank rate and open market operation. This method might not be best out of the best method to use in the long term because when the banks let the rediscounting leaves the open door to replenish the reserve as before, the sale of securities by the central bank could not let the commercial bank to let their customer to have a loan because the bank has less reserve. And another one is restricted dealings. Central banks are not ready for the losses that could happen when the open market operation is used in the long term. If the securities are in the short term, the loss that occur will be less. That is why open market operation can only be used in a short-term securities only. Difficulties in execution. It is easy for central bank to do purchase policy instead of doing sale of securities in open market operations. Same goes to the commercial banks. A policy of expansion is harder to implement than a policy of credit contraction. Therefore, open market operations may work in short term, but then it cannot go for a long term to prevent the deterioration. As we can see, the curve shows response to an open market operation on selling the government securities. Okay, next, we proceed to discount policy. Advantages of discount policy. When central bank lower discount rate, the federal funds rate decreasing. When lower in federal fund rates, the quantity of reserve will be increased. Therefore, central bank will have money to keep and can be used during emergency. And it is also to perform as a lender of last resort. When a bank having a crisis, the central bank will perform the role of the last choice of money lender. And preventing from financial panics. Central bank will provide the money to the bank so that it will avoid financial panics or not letting people losing their hopes in banking system. And another one is requirement of successful monetary policy making. This could be the important requirement to make the monetary policy to be successful, as they will decrease the discount rate and encourage the reserve for borrowings. So we are proceed to disadvantages of discount policy. When central bank increase in the discount rate, it leads to a rise in the federal funds rate. When federal funds rate increase, the quantity of reserve will be low. This will make the central bank not in the position to support the other commercial bank. And it also banks will take more risks. They know that the central banks will help them when they are in the trouble, so they purposely taking more risk in order to maintain their services. This will create a moral hazard problem. If more than one banks are taking the risk, the central bank will face the difficulties in covering them. The next one is the confusion among people for those who are not expert in the economy. They might not knowing the intention for the central banks to increase or decrease the discount rate. And the other one is a less effective than open market operation. Open market operation are completely discretion of the central bank, whereas the volume of discount loan is not. The central bank can change the discount rate, but it cannot make banks borrow the money. And it is also not easily reversed. Discount policy cannot be reversed easily compared to open market operation. If it increases in discount rate, it will discourage the reserve borrowings. Now we are proceed to the reserve requirements. Advantages of reserve requirements. Increase in reserve leads to an increase in the level of deposit and hence in the money supply. When the required reserve ratio increases and the quantity of reserve demanded increases for any given interest rate. And then it also to control the money supply and interest rate. It affect all banks equally. The advantages is have powerful effect on money supply. All the financial institutions will get an equal amount on effect, especially in effect on the supply of money. The reason why they do this is to make sure that the economy flow with generous amount of liquidity. Look, like how the government in Malaysia is being doing in order for them to preserve the economy of Malaysia during this pandemic. Another one is inject money into banking institutions. It helps the banking institutions in earning more profit through maximum lending opportunities. It ensures that the banking institutions can stay away from future contingency as a result of shortage of funds or sudden enhancement of withdrawals or excessive lending. Another one is ensure the depositor safety. It ensures that the depositors are aware of their bank financial performance and whether they are dealing with a lower level of margin at any points in time. It helps in circulation of money in the economy would further help in managing the overall liquidity. It is also enhanced the purchasing power of money by encouraging banking institutions to participate in government securities by investing funds into them. One is a disadvantages of reserve requirement. Decrease in federal funds rate will decrease the quantity of reserve. More money will lose if the central bank could not keep up to save some or find another way to solve the inflation problem. That's how you can see at the graph. So it is also a powerful tool. Changes in money supply and interest rate will be hard to control. Overuse in money and increase in rate will not be in control. It could not be reversed like open market operation. It can cause immediate liquidity problem for banks with low excess reserve. Whenever banking institutions are using money too much, the central banks might not be in a difficulty to gain back the money. It will cause a liquidity problem for the financial institution as they have low reserve. It is also a not effective tool. When central bank has raised this requirement in the past, it has usually softened by making discount window more uncertainty for banks and make their liquidity management more difficult. It expensive for the administrator to change in reserve requirement. This method rarely used because only certain situation it can be applied. Overall, as a conclusion, during this COVID-19 pandemic, the government of Malaysia has been doing their best to keep maintaining the economic to move, to avoid from deflation and to keep maintaining the growth of economic. Minister of Finance and the others has trying his best to keep the economy move. Those monetary policy might have the advantage and disadvantages. There might be not the perfect solution to maintain the positivity in the economic for a long time, but it is possible way to take control over the economic from falling into worse situation. Taking a risk is all matters when in making a decision. That's all from me. Thank you. Thank you for listening.